Welcome to Key Stock and Crypto channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And we're going to be bringing you videos on mostly gaming, but I'm just going to do a quick dividend stock video. And right now we have a lot of stocks with a lot of air in it. We know all the money printing the Fed did, and the Fed now is going to start letting some of that air out the bubble. Yes, they're cutting rates, which a lot of people think that's going to cause liquidity, but it's not going to cause liquidity to move into the American stock market. It's going to cause that liquidity to go to the emerging markets, because as the Fed is cutting rates, we're going to have the emerging markets raising rates. And then also the United States World Reserve currency is going to end. We're going to a level playing field. The dollar is not going anywhere because we see all the tokenization of treasuries, but it's definitely going to lose that power. Guys, we know we're headed to the fourth industrial revolution. You just have to get yourselves prepared. But as that air comes out the bubble and then we start to chop around, you want stocks to have dividends. And a lot of these stocks that have dividends also are doing buybacks. We know buybacks in the short term are going to work. They're just manipulating the stock to keep it high. And of course, who benefits? The shareholders. Who benefits from dividends? The shareholders. And now these companies own so much of their stock, they're getting paid dividends and controlling the path for their own stock. Remember, I told you, these corporations are going to be your new government. If you have the NWO book, you understand. But the first dividend stock, of course, is Walmart. I don't care what the situation is set up for the fourth industrial revolution. If everything was to shut down tomorrow, they could easily send a drone and you'll still be able to get your merchandise. And then the biggest piece, we know when it comes to pricing, they can price out the mom and pops. And then we have the Magnificent Seven, of course. Again, still a lot of air in the bubble. And these stocks are going to have a pullback. We know the drums are beating. You're going to hear it in the narrative. Oh, these stocks are going to take a hit. But guys, we know all about the fourth industrial revolution. We know all about the digital economy. We know they're set up for that. Only thing you have to do is sit back, let the stocks dip, and buy into the dip. The Magnificent Seven is going to control these robots, algorithms, and drones. And of course, who controls the Magnificent Seven and all these AI and tech stocks? That's right, the banks. So JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, again, the stock is high. Let some of the air come out and buy the dip. Remember, they're doing stock buybacks, and then also they have wonderful dividends. But because we have all these geopolitical events, we have the two sides created. These stocks, the Magnificent Seven, banks, oil, all this is going to take a roller coaster ride. And we know the Rockefellers never lose. So we know we're still going to have Chevron, Exxon, gold, silver, copper. Commodities are not going anywhere. They need the most highest minerals. And what also is going to run a lot of this technology is the telephone networks. 5G, 6G, whatever you want to call it, are a big piece of the fourth industrial revolution. And while people are sitting at home getting free money, what are they going to be doing? Drinking and smoking. And Altria Group is one of those companies that are definitely set up to win. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Across the wire, the Biden-Harris administration announcing Intel has been awarded an additional up to $3 billion in direct funding under the CHIPS and Science Act for what's called the Secure Enclave program. This is about manufacturing leading-edge chips for the use of the U.S. government. Intel was already higher for the day, 3+%. Now it's up close to 4%. This is probably not the last announcement that we're going to get from Intel today. As a matter of fact, we're going to have CEO Pat Gelsinger on Overtime later today, broadcast exclusive on this news. But this comes as Intel has been under a lot of pressure over its foundry program that's manufacturing chips for others. It's something that Intel has not specialized in the past. It's tens of billions of dollars that Intel has been spending on it at a time when its core business has been challenged by the shift in attention away from CPUs, which Intel specializes in, more to GPUs that are being used in AI for accelerators. So we'll see what Intel further has to say about this and more when Pat Gelsinger joins us, broadcast exclusive in overtime. But for now, Intel stock moving higher on this news of an additional up to $3 billion from the federal government under the CHIPS Act for the Secure Enclave program, guys.
And obviously, I think, John, the concern here is for the military, that they're not reliant on chips from China and that kind of thing. You know, Aswath Damodaran was on last hour. He said he actually was buying Intel shares last week, but that more broadly, he wanted to hear the company say, we're not trying to be number one. We're just happy to be in a niche and in an area of demand, especially from the U.S., perhaps from the government, that can be steady and consistent, and that would be enough for shareholders at this point.
Well, Intel's got a long climb to be number one, either in chip design, where NVIDIA clearly on the AI side is far ahead of everyone else. And then on the manufacturing side, where TSMC is really the leading foundry to the world and has been for quite a while. So, you know, does Intel want to be number one in 10 plus years? I'm sure shareholders would like to hear that. Eventually, they like to plan to get there. But right now, investors really want to hear that there's a way to get to viability in the foundry side with solid customers there, and to really keep things going on the design side as they try to balance up the business, if they're not going to separate the two, which Gelsinger has said that he does not want to do, at least up to this point. We'll see what more he has to say.
Apple is the biggest drag in that index. Let's go over to Steve Kovac. He's got more on what is causing that drop in the stock. Of course, iPhone demand always at the center of many investors' expectations.
Yeah, that's right, David. And it seems like, at least at first, the iPhone 16 could be off to a slow start, coming off that first week of pre-orders. Now, the analysts on the street have been digging through all those ship times, going on the Apple website for those pre-orders, and they're seeing lower ship times, which comes off as a signal demand is weaker than last year. I'm going to point to Ming-Chin Kuo. He's basically the best analyst covering Apple these days. He says unit sales for the iPhone 16 appear to be down almost 13% compared to last year's iPhone 15 lineup. And it gets a little worse here for the Pro lineups. Those are the more expensive phones. The iPhone 16 Pro appears to be down 27%, while the Pro Max, the top of the line model, down 16% year over year. Now, other analysts across the street had similar estimates this morning, but I want to also point to Bank of America, kind of adding this caveat here that Apple may be producing more Pro models this year, which explains those reduced ship times. Pre-order ship times also is, not the perfect gauge of demand, but it is the best we have now. And it directly tells us how demand can compare to the previous year. Now, we also have to start asking, though, is the street narrative holding up that this AI-driven demand is going to create a sort of super cycle for this crop of iPhones? It could be, though, that people are waiting because the AI on these iPhones aren't going to launch for another month or so, and this is a kind of slow rollout with AI that's sort of gunking up the true view of demand. We're going to have to wait and see a few more weeks, but the iPhone officially launches this Friday, along with all those other products they announced.
Going to a different economy.